Well, welcome on back to another episode of Listening to the Voices in Our Heads. We are going through our November Writing Challenge episodes. That's why you've gotten so many here this month. And we're kind of welcoming in a friend who's going to have some very cool celebratory news. Let's go ahead and meet up with, well, the other half of the Two of Crones. Sarah's here. Let's go. Welcome on back to another episode of Season 6 for Listening to the Voices in Our Heads. My name is Jenna O'Malley. We are going to get here and talk about creative minds and their creative processes, living in a world not built for their creativity while in much need of it. And boy, do we need somebody like Sarah C. Brody in his house.
Hey!
We all know and adore Sarah as part of the Two of Crones, but I've hyped you up a little bit. Let's go ahead and hear about you from your side of the story then.
Okay, well, hello. I am Sarah C. Brody. I am the author of the Stella Kendrick series. Book 4 is up for pre-order now. It's called Of Bonds and Betrayal. And should we go ahead and do a little Two of Crones plug right now too? Another new book, which many of you have heard about, is the Hush Little Baby anthology. It's a Krampus anthology that my editing, writing partner, bestie, work bestie, twin, Nicole Ford Thomas and I have an unedited, and Jenna was one of the contributing authors. And that anthology hit #1 over the weekend. So thank you to everyone who participated and bought a copy. We appreciate it. And it's still in the top 10 as of about an hour ago. So pretty good, right?
Very good. So link in the description box below. Go boost it back up, y'all. Go boost it back up. So we're going to kind of talk about your books in that order a little bit. You mentioned one of my favorite characters ever. Oh my God. You know how I feel about Stella and Gib, but who or what inspired Stella Kendrick's life before and during the series?
Oh, wow. Okay, so this whole project, this whole series started out as something completely different because I was looking for more characters my age. It was kind of before the paranormal women's fiction boom. I wanted a middle-aged character in paranormal romance and urban fantasy. And so Stella started out as somebody completely different. And by the time I was writing the book for like the 4th time, she had turned into Stella. So she's kind of an amalgamation of me, who I was at one point, who I want to be at some point. I kind of rooted her in me, but we have a lot of, things in common, like knitting and baking and cooking. But, she's a little more adventurous than I am. We'll just leave it at that.
But she has those hallmarks that a lot of women, saying this in my late 30s, I'm already considering myself in that I go to bed at grandma time category,
Right.
or I love the cozy activities if my hands let me do them.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, I want to be Stella when I'm in my 40s and my 50s. She's so cool.
Yeah, well, she gets the added bonus of like she's Faye, so she's not aging anymore, and she actually did a little reverse aging because her magic was cursed and all this stuff. So we would all love to be Stella a little bit, I think, in that regard anyway.
Definitely so. And I want to say, having seen her growth through now 4 books, you see a lot of that middle of the life questionings. I don't want to call them crises,
right,
but a lot of the stuff a lot of women are going through. So check it out if you need a really good female lead. So the lines between all things paranormal and art and urban fantasy seem to keep blending.
Yeah.
Is there a line anymore? Is there a definition anymore?
I don't know. I mean, I've been thinking about this for months, and it's one of the questions that I ask myself all the time when I start thinking about new projects is this going to be paranormal romance, or is this going to be urban fantasy, or now is this going to be some sort of romantasy that takes place in, the modern world, because that's turning into a thing now too. And the only thing I know that there are some diehard urban fantasy fans who insist that urban fantasy takes place in a city. But, friends, may we go back to the early 2000s and talk about a little series called The Southern Vampire Chronicles? Because that
Oh,
hooked up urban
yes.
fantasy way early, and it takes place in like the tiniest town in the country, right? Bontemps, Louisiana. I mean, it has some scenes in Shreveport, which is a city, but it was 90% of it in Bontemps, and it is considered urban fantasy all the way. I would consider it paranormal romance in one regard, but then you have the whole POV thing, right? Do they both have POV or just the main character? But now we're starting to see all of it kind of mashed together. Like we have so many series where the male character, or the main love interest, I should say, is making an appearance, if not 50-50, sometimes, maybe not in every book, but sometimes. Adam Hauptman in the Mercy Thompson series. He's not in every book as a POV character, but he does have POV scenes. But then you take that series and put it next to her other series, Alpha and Omega, and you can totally tell the difference that Alpha and Omega is strictly paranormal romance, even though it takes place in different cities a lot of the time. Whereas Mercy Thompson takes place in a smaller city, but it's definitely an urban fantasy. See what I mean? It's crazy.
And those lines are more like continuums now. Like, how much of one thing are you would probably be where you would land, right?
So yeah, for me, the easiest way to break it down is the romance at least 50% of the plot? And if so, then I think it's a paranormal romance. But that's really subjective, and that's just my opinion.
I think that's a nice hallmarker to give. Definitely, for sure. So you're saying a series therefore can be both if it does certain things in balance. So what would they have to balance?
I think that a series can be both. And I think that, then it becomes a romantic urban fantasy, maybe. I'm not really sure what the cutoff is, or what goes in each like pot, for example, like what's in the, or what's in the bowl that we're going to pour into the blender, right? Like the flour and the sugar. Which one's the flour? Which one's the sugar? Does it really matter when you mix them all up and get something delicious and wonderful? I don't think so. I don't think it matters as much as it used to, especially with indie publishing.
She warned you that she loves baking. I love that she went right to cake.
I'm sorry. I get excited about this stuff.
No, I was like, actually, that's a perfect image to give, for sure, for sure. Now, you've mentioned some of your favorite authors who kind of say on either side, like, are there others you would want to mention, like maybe inspired you, or maybe someone you're reading now who's newer to you, since you're maybe working on newer projects and things of that nature?
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out who my favorite paranormal romance and who my favorite urban fantasy authors were. But it turns out they're the same. Like Patricia Briggs, right? She writes both. K.F. Breen, she writes both. Ilona Andrews, she writes both. Yeah, you know what I mean? As far as like straight urban fantasy, Heather G. Harris, and surprisingly, hers are non-spice. Hers are like low spice, no spice, and they're wonderful. They're fantastic. But she's more just strictly urban fantasy. But when it comes to paranormal romance, I feel like it's easier to blend them. Like it's harder to have a strictly paranormal romance than it is a strictly urban fantasy, if that makes sense.
2000% agree. 2000%. And I like how you mentioned some authors that she mentioned you should do case studies on.
Yeah.
Just saying, if you're really wanting to know some godmothers of their genres in many ways, check those authors out. So we're going to definitely slide more into the romantic ends of your writing, because woman, the spice levels in your books, oh my god, the things her characters do. Oh my goodness.
So, I kind of think they're pretty tame compared to some other things that are out there. I mean,
she does. It's outside of the stereotypical box, and every book, it's not the same. And I love it. It's the same couple, but it's not the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When you're writing a plot that is at least 50% romance with the same characters throughout a 6 or 7 book series, the romance can't be the same in every book. You know, like the first book, they're getting to know each other. It's those first interactions. The second book, they're a mated pair. They're basically feral for each other. And there's a, it's very wild and, all about that mating bond. And then in the third book, they've been together for a little while. So maybe they're trying something new. And then we won't talk about the fourth book because,
just go read the fourth book.
Yeah, just read the fourth
It's
book.
available for purchase. I mean, come on. So it's not always constrained to said room. So what tips do you have for authors for being rather authentic about it? Because the risk is, does it sound cheesy? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess if you're writing this kind of thing and you need the story and their arc there, so you have your plot, right? The plot of the series has to progress. Each POV character, their character arc has to progress, but the relationship arc has to progress as well. So be authentic, if you like that kind of thing, if you're into the sex stuff, which I am, my husband and I have known each other since we were 16. We have a long, healthy relationship.
So that's how you know. Wow, you've been together a long time.
We
then,
worked
longer
together
than I
the whole
realized.
time. We didn't get married until I was 36. So yeah. So, but
You definitely know the import of that slow burn interweave on occasion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to keep it realistic and draw on your own experiences or other people's experiences, read some articles, do some research on, I don't know, positions and other things, and, learn about the things you're writing about if they're not familiar to you. But always make sure that unless you're writing erotica, which is a totally legit thing to do, but the rules are different for erotica. So when you're writing romantic or spicy fiction that's not erotica, you need to make sure that the spicy scenes move the plot or one or both of the character arcs forward, preferably all of the above. That's the sweet spot. So don't just throw it in there to throw it in there.
I love how you mentioned that they're like ping pong balls of, if the romance moves, the characters have to react to the development.
Yeah.
Kind of like relationships in real life. And I love that so much. So we're going to pivot to the other books.
Okay.
We kind of mentioned right quick. Two of Crones. Tell us how you got started in being involved with them.
How did we get started with Two of Crones? You faded in a little bit there. Faded out a little.
Yeah.
So just want to make
Sorry
sure.
Yeah. How did you get started with Two of Crones?
So Nicole and I met. She went over this in her episode, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But we met planning to work on another anthology that did not pan out. And then she reached out to me shortly thereafter and asked me if I wanted to do the next anthology, which was Beltane with her. And I said, absolutely, yes. I have no experience doing this. Teach me. So we worked it out. We did really, in fact, that was the first short story I had written since the one for Beltane, since high school or college. So I was coming in like totally new to this. And it worked out really well. Nicole is an excellent teacher. She taught me a lot. We work really well together. The first two anthologies, Bog Hag and Beltane, and Bog Hag she did on her own, were specifically for authortube creators. And they did really well. But we thought maybe with with the new one, with Hush Little Baby, that we would open it up to a wider audience and invite more stories in. So it was really, really fun to read all of these stories and to edit them.
Yeah, I was going to say, and my understanding is each edition has gotten slightly longer or thicker or...
No, actually, Beltane, I think, had more stories in it by a few, by like 2 or 3, maybe. But we had almost as many for Krampus, but they were very different, like very different. Mine was the only one with any spice to it, which is, but what am I going to do? Right. I can't help myself.
You write what you know, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
But we had like straight up horror, psychological suspense, thrillers. We had sweet stories, like cozy story in there. We had poetry. Hello, you.
Hello, poetry. Krampus went cozy on us. I'm
There's,
curious.
I don't know if I go so far as cozy, but there are a couple of stories that are on the tamer side, but
Gotcha.
no less well written or interesting. They were
I
great
was
stories.
I was picturing like a Krampus coffee house, and I'm like, I have questions.
Yeah, that would be. Ooh, a Krampus coffee house.
It'd be fun. Like what? Like kind of like where do all the Santa Clauses go when they're off duty? Where do all the Krampuses go when they're off duty? Anyway, so sorry for the tangent.
For some reason, I think the Krampuses aren't going to a coffee house, and I'm just going to leave it there.
I wasn't going to make it what I really thought they were. I was trying to keep it PG, okay?
Okay, well, you took me here, so just throw that out the window because that's just not how I roll.
Sex dungeon. Anyway. Yeah, you know the poem I wrote. Anyway, cut that out, V. Cut that part out. Anyway, moving right along. When it comes to balancing all you do, because you've got a lot going on. You're doing your own books. You're working, I hear. You're a caretaker for a family member. You're working on the anthologies. How do you balance it all? What are your tips, tricks, routines, rituals?
Yeah, be flexible, first of all, and get the priority things out of the way first. Like I get up very early, and I probably get more done between 4:30 and 8:30 a.m. than most people do in a day, because I don't have any interruptions, no interruptions. So that's when I write. That's when I like if there's something that needs to get done for the anthology. That's when I do that. But yeah, I always try to write start writing by 5 a.m. Yeah.
So you're not a night person then, ironically, even though your characters run around at night sometimes.
Yeah. No, I used to be a bartender and manage restaurants. And when I bartended in Atlanta, we didn't even get done and we didn't give last call until 2:30 a.m., 3:30 a.m. some nights. And it was 5 a.m. before I was getting out of work. So I'd sleep all day. But now, I kind of, once I got out of that industry, I guess, biology took over from, and it turns out I'm a morning bird. So yeah, but some people do it the opposite and they do all the other crazy stuff all day long, and then they have like midnight to 2 a.m. where they just write. And it's different for every person, but find what works for you and do the priority things in your highest focus time.
Definitely love that. Love it so much because, as she noted, it might change too. Because you had a career shift, I consider that a significant life change.
Yeah.
And your body was like, hey, by the way, let me inform you. Now, do you think doing like the wind down administrative tasks at the business that you left, restaurants and whatnot, doing the till and all that at the end of the night, is that also maybe why your brain does some of the more admin things better at those times of day, you think?
Maybe. I never really thought about that, but maybe.
Because bless your heart for doing money math at 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. Bless your heart.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't do it. Bless all of you in that industry.
And this was like back in the 90s, right? When it wasn't all computerized and we had to do it. Like the register was like, I don't know, some archaic, horrible thing. And it would spit out numbers, but we had to go and do like everything else by hand. So we had little everybody had their own little calculator, and yeah.
I worked at McDonald's in high school, and you said that, and I pictured all of our managers had calculators they kept on them because they had to constantly check tills at different times of the shift. And you're right. Oh, so right. So, like readers and one more chapter syndrome, we writers can find ourselves binging the words as much in the same manner. How do you find a balance between the panic and joy that is pure, raw, unrestrained writing mode, spice or not, and actually saying, okay, wait a minute, I can't do that. I have to do the admin stuff. Is there like a code switch? Do you get up and go and get coffee or something?
Yeah, I usually take some sort of break. So most morning, my ideal schedule, right? I get up, I'm writing by 4:30. I write for 2 or 3 hours. There's coffee involved, but at 7:30, I feed my dog and take him for a walk. And then I come back and I either like hop on the treadmill or something and then get dressed and then settle in for like admin or marketing, which marketing, the bane of my existence, right? But then, I'm like, oh, if I can get this stuff done, I can write again for a little while.
That's a good way to look at it. Kind of not a condition of punishment, but a condition of that joy and reward. So, loving it. What is one book, class, or podcast creative people should enjoy at least once a year as part of their professional development? Then, where would you send them off to?
Well, okay, so if you're going indie, and even if you're going trad, but especially if you're going indie, highly recommend Publish and Thrive by Sarah Cannon. I revisit that. One of the best things about that class is that you have lifetime access, and she updates it all the time. So I revisit that class, parts of that class every year, and sometimes I just take the whole thing over, which I'm probably going to do when she runs it again in February, I think. That was one of the best things I did for my author career. And I highly recommend, you're an admin in her group, but the Heart Breathings writing group and the Publish and Thrive course, especially if you're starting out too. It's such a nurturing place and there's a wealth of talent and knowledge and it's so many different kinds of writers. So it's really a great place.
Thank you for shouting out the community and agreed on the class. Like, seriously, that's how I figured out how to pivot out of trad world as being a trad editor in fiction and nonfiction fully into indie, because I had to rebrand thanks to Sarah. And I'm so glad I did.
And, like I said, the fact that it's evergreen is invaluable, because I was just looking at it today or not today, the other day, but she was talking about something about keywords and categories and had changed it, or, whether you want to do DMR or not. And things change. So she like updates it at least once a year, maybe more. It's insane. But yeah, it's definitely a great value and an amazing resource.
If I were to say any class I've taken as an indie author was a true investment that I saw money back on, it's that class, honestly.
Yeah.
It really is. So
the two names I give everybody are Sarah Cannon and Becca Syme.
Oh, Becca. Woo!
As an I am educator, a member. I'm a cult of Becca member. Yeah.
As a teacher, I look at what Sarah does and I'm like, oh my God. But Sarah taught a little bit too. Mm-hmm. Becca, on the other hand, I look at her and my curriculum mindset brain goes, all the data make me rethink how to use all these different things. So if you want something that'll complement Sarah, go get Becca.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, they go hand in hand.
Oh, whether or not that was on purpose or by divine intervention, go check them both out. Description box below for all those of you who are interested. So what's your advice for anyone wanting to use social media to grow their business then? Because you've had... So you run away?
No, that's my gut reaction. Anytime anybody says, are you using social media to grow your business? I think that you can use social media to grow your business. I think where people get into trouble is when they put all their eggs in the social media basket. What we forget, and I forget it all the time, is that the algorithm doesn't show us all the creators and all the authors with 50 followers. They show us the big ones with millions of followers. And there are more of us with less than 1,000 followers or less than 500 followers than there are of people with 1 million or even 10,000 followers. And it's really hard to reconcile that when you see these beautiful, big, aesthetically pleasing accounts, and the rest of us are over here, don't have time or bandwidth for it, or not, don't know where to start. So like there are tons of best-selling authors that have no social media game at all. And that's totally okay. I think that if you want to use social media to grow your business, you have to understand that it needs to be one branch of your marketing tree, of your business tree. If you really want something that you can really make your own and hold on to forever. Basically, it's your newsletter, because you can download all those addresses, you can save all your emails. Social media can go away at any time. Like we all held our breath about TikTok for so many months, right?
And even in some membership areas like Ream Stories or Patreon, they can go
All
overnight,
of that
heaven
stuff can
forbid.
go away. So you can't put all your eggs in one basket. I was doing some research on this weekend, and I fell into a Threads rabbit hole. And someone asked, how do I do this? And, about marketing and about business. And so many people said, well, you have to have 15 different TikToks accounts and you have accounts, and you have to post on them multiple times each day. And I just, like, my whole soul just withered up and died and turned into ash and just poofed. And I was like, no, this is not how we're supposed to be doing this. And it is how some people are doing it, and to different varying degrees of success. But to me, for me, the payoff, I don't care if I'm making $5 million or $20 million if I'm miserable. I'd rather make, $50,000 and be, have a really great work-life balance. Maybe not 50, maybe 100,000, I mean, let's be real. But for me, the work-life balance is very important. And I don't think you can have that if social media is the only way you're trying to grow your business.
Agreed. That is something I talked about a lot with people when I did in-person events this last year. They said, well, you built the basis of your business when we were in lockdown, and a lot of us didn't have any other choice but to start there. And I said, yeah, but I so wish I had started even 5 years sooner and could have done some more in-person stuff beforehand, because it would have led to figuring some of this stuff out sooner. So I'm glad you're wording it in that way. Oh goodness, because you and Nicole you're managing your own, plus you share managing a third entity with Two of Crones. That's wow.
Yeah, it's a balance. Like, there are some weeks where Nicole, and lots of weeks recently, because as many of you know, my mother had a really bad fall and broke her hip and fractured her spine. So I was out of commission taking care of her for several weeks. Nicole did all the heavy lifting during those weeks. But in a regular, kind of situation, there are weeks where we're both like 100% all about the anthology. And there are weeks where I have stuff to do and I can't do anything, and she does it all, or vice versa. And we are really good about doing what we can when we can, and, trying to balance it. Like, there are some things that she doesn't want to do that I'll gladly do, and vice versa. So
I have to say, watching the two of you work has been pretty seamless. And I wonder if part of this was just happenstance. A lot of what you're good at are her weaknesses, and vice versa.
yeah.
And between the two in the background, it's a holistic aesthetic, and it's so enjoyable to work with all of you. Thank you for what you do for the community.
Well, thank you for participating in it as well. It's been wonderful. Writing can be a very solitary endeavor, and we're so lucky to live in the time that we do, because we have the means to do a lot of things virtually that we wouldn't have been able to do even in the 90s, or the early 2000s. And Nicole and I are on Discord all the time chatting. So, or it's just what we do. Our personalities complement one another really well.
So definitely, if you want to see more of these two make amazing things, or you just want an example of a pair who works really well together, go do a case study on them, because you two have done so much in the last year, and I'm very thankful for both of you. And I'm so proud of all the publishing you've done and all you continue to do to support the community. Other than anyone we've already mentioned, would you like to do any final shout outs before we give you your outro?
Oh, wow. I mean, the list of people I could shout out is so long. Oh, wow. Yeah.
If you missed any, recap back the episode. So then let's outro for you, my dear. Remind us where we can find you, follow you, and more.
So I am mostly, the best place to catch up with me is in my newsletter. And Jenna will have a link in the description box. But I'm also on Instagram a lot, and you can just find me at Sarah C. Brody on most like Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, YouTube. It's not exactly that. I can't remember exactly. It's got some underscores and things in it, but I'll send the link to Jenna. But yeah,
and she's back to doing sprints here soon, writers. Go to her sprints.
Yeah, definitely like and subscribe on my YouTube channel to keep up, because I do sprints. I'm hoping to get back to doing sprints twice a week. It's a great way to hang out and get some work done.
And on that note, y'all, check out all the things in the description box below. And we've got some cool next episodes coming up, including visiting with a horror author, a massage therapist, a cosplayer, and an expert on AI.
Oh my God.
See you later. Yes, it's going to be a blast. See you later, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.